If you hadn't already guessed, we love camping. After meeting on a campsite in France, we got married, started growing our family, and made it our mission to spend our family holidays exploring Europe, chasing the sun, jumping in pools, and making the best family memories. So, if you love camping and exploring too, hit the little subscribe button to keep updated with our hints, tips, and reviews. Hello, and welcome to the Family Camping Europe YouTube channel. Today, we are staying in the tent. We're at Col Vert campsite, which is a Sandaya campsite on the Lands coast of France. So we're staying in a tent. Nanny's with us this holiday, isn't she? So it's the four girls in the tent. I'm struggling to actually film much of this trip. But we'll get there, so bear with me because this video may be very, very choppy. Okay, so this is our emplacement. I'm gonna be honest, it's quite possibly the worst emplacement we've ever stayed on. However, it does have a lot of shade, which is very good for baby bedtimes. So let's take you around. It's fairly spacious, not the biggest, but it's a good size. This is all just dry and dusty, like we are absolutely filthy constantly. Even so much that she's digging it up to make a sandcastle. There's a lot of dead leaves and sticks, which definitely hasn't been so good with a baby. She's not actually been allowed out of the tent. She kind of can crawl to this mat, and then we stick like the inflatable boats or the swan that you can see in there. We stick them outside that she can crawl into those, but she's not allowed on this floor because she's at an age where she sticks everything in her mouth. We had a bit of a storm the other day, so there's some nice big branches there that have all fallen down. When we arrived, we wanted to put the tent actually in this area. However, I don't really know what's going on, but just a massive crater. Like, I just don't know if I can even show this on camera, but it's like, there's just a giant hole and a hill, and like there's just some concrete there and stuff. Like, it's so unlevel, so like Mike tried to dig up bits, but it didn't quite work. So not the best pitch. There are some grassy pitches, and very much regretting only booking a 2-shell rating pitch instead of more. Maybe if I booked a higher grade pitch, I'd have got some grass instead. Thankfully, we have a tap, which is very handy with little babies. I think our tap's just here. This is the communal tap, so everyone kind of comes over to fill up their stuff while we're like sat there eating dinner, which is kind of uncomfortable, I guess. But they don't have water on theirs, and we didn't book water, so that's not, you know, that's just luck of the draw and all that. But yeah, this is our emplacement. Anyway, let's carry on with the rest of the campsite. After helping us set up our pitch, Mike headed home and left us 4 girls organising the tent. The following day, we took the opportunity to explore. As we had no car, we got a bus from the campsite into the cute town of Leon, explored the busy market, got some drinks, and did a chaotic shop at the local supermarket. Once that was out of the way, we were free to see what Col Vert had to offer. And as you pull back into the campsite on the bus, it's hard to miss the stunning sandy lake entrance. We grabbed our swimwear and headed straight back out. There are actually 2 lake entrances on the campsite. One which is open to the public just outside the campsite entrance, and another which we called the secret entrance on site. The public entrance was a lot busier, but had more of an atmosphere, and you could also hire equipment from there. The secret beach was a lot calmer and quieter. Word of warning, there are these giant spiky water chestnut things that can cut into your feet, so make sure you take some water shoes with you. After a quick nap and rest for the little ones and a hot coffee for me, we decided to check out the pool. As it was a lovely hot day, we decided a swim in the pool would be really refreshing. And we weren't wrong. Perhaps we underestimated just how fresh the water was going to be. You can probably tell by the lack of people in it, it was absolutely freezing. But thankfully there was an indoor area, and as you can imagine, pretty much everyone was in here, so the space was quite limited. And then they also cordoned off a part of it for swimming lessons, but it was nice and warm. After a long day of water play, there was only thing that the 4-year-old wanted, and you guessed it, ice cream. So just outside the entrance of the campsite, and once again open to the public, there was a small ice cream shack which sold lots of frozen goods and cold drinks. With excitement still fresh, the next morning was pretty smooth. Everyone was dressed, up and out nice and early. And believe me, I'm really not gloating here, because literally every morning after this contained crying and some very big emotions. Anyway, we headed to the beachy themed campsite bar, which is situated next to the pool. It's such a tranquil setting for morning coffee. Next to the bar, there's also a library, which I slightly filmed myself in here to get this footage, and the cleaner caught me, which was very, very embarrassing, because I'm definitely not one of these confident video makers that just walk around camera in hand filming themselves. I mean, I have done occasionally, but I hate it when people see me, and I'm not cool with it. Anyway, after a coffee at the bar, can you tell I really like coffee? We headed to the shop and the boulangerie on site for some breakfast. I also discovered they sold coffee from the boulangerie for the next morning, which was handy because the 4-year-old decided that she wanted to stay in her pyjamas in the tent all day and not leave, so I had to go out and get coffee. After sufficient caffeine and pastry, we headed to the park. The park here is amazing. It's so new, modern, and I think it was actually built this year. There are wooden slides, climbing frames, zip lines, basketball, tennis, a running track, a scooter track, and literally too many things to mention. We carried on mooching around the campsite, and to our surprise, we also found a pony club with horse riding on the campsite. Now, I tend to do a lot of research before I go somewhere, but I apparently missed this one. We then also spotted a smaller, older looking park further down the campsite, which made sense because the campsite is really, really big, so it made sense to have another park further away from the main facilities. And I also saw the spa area. I really wish that I had the chance to take a nice spa trip, but it's just not going to happen. Then we headed back to the tent for some lunch, some naps, before we had another afternoon at the lake. The rest of the week followed pretty much the same theme, except for some days we swapped the park for the bouncy castle, the lake for the swimming pool, and lunch at the tent for lunch at the restaurant. Now, food was okay at the restaurant. I enjoyed that the menu sold some different meals, which I don't usually find, but it wasn't anything to write home about. It was a nice campsite meal. That evening, after showering in one of the 5 shower blocks, PS number 3 was our favourite as it had really good kids facilities, we went and checked out the small market on the campsite. The 4-year-old had her hair braided, and we enjoyed the last peaceful night before Mike came back to pack us down. There are lots of other facilities which I haven't really mentioned, which include bike hire, animation and mini discos, petanque, nice flat roads for scooting on, and there was a gym, lots of washing machines, which I advise getting up early to do your washing because it took me an hour of walking around missing all the empty washing machines before I actually found an empty one. So yeah, that's everything we did whilst on the campsite. So what about the days out we did? So we didn't actually have a car during our stay, and my mum doesn't really like riding a bike, so Mike dropped us there, ran away, took the car, but he did return for the last 2 nights, which meant he could take us out. So for our last day, we went to this really cool lake called Basa Poop, which you may have seen us go to before. The lake has these giant water slides which you can go down on like surfboards and bodyboards and rubber rings, etc. It has some water inflatables and zip lines. You can hire stand-up paddle boards. There's also a snack bar and a really cool green area to play on. And it also has a separate water park for the children, which is called Mini Pop, which we spent most of our time in here because there was a lot of splash things for really little children.
You like it?
The Basa Poop is actually an hour south of the campsite, so it is quite a long drive, but it is definitely, I would definitely recommend it for a day out. And that evening, we headed to our favourite seaside town of Hoscore because it isn't too far from Basa Poop. We had some dinner and did our annual sunset photos on the beach, which you might have seen in a previous video. Hoscore is 40 minutes from the campsite, but there are much closer beach options should you want a day at the coast, because the beach is actually only about 10 minutes drive from the campsite. But as this is France, it's very different to the UK. Don't expect amusements or, you know, bright lights, flashy things, bars, refreshments, etc., because you're generally going to get sand, sea, and potentially a surf school at most beaches in France. Also, check the signage before you go on the beach, as the campsite is very, very close to a naturist beach, and obviously, you know, a lot of people are cool with that, but a lot of people aren't, so just double check your signs. There are lots of other days out which you could take, but we didn't take this time, but there are definitely good options, which are Biarritz. It's got an aquarium, museum, beautiful coastline. You've probably heard of it because it's one of the most glamorous places on like the southwest coast of France. That's around an hour away from the campsite. Closer to home, you've also got some treetop climbing, and that's just 7 minutes away. It's at a place called La Haute Adventure Park. I personally think the best way to discover this region is by bike. The paths here are incredible, and when we stayed nearby a few years ago, we had so much fun riding through the Landes forests, and I recommend that as a day out in itself, just exploring different towns and villages via bike. So anyway, I really hope this video helps you decide if staying at Le Col Vert is for you. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more camping in Europe videos. Thank you very much for watching.